Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. We're bringing you stories from the world of business policy and economy. The biggest story that we're tracking at this hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Ahmedabad today on 9th of January. He is embarking on a two-day visit to inaugurate the 10th edition of the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit in 2024 happening in Gandhinagar. The summit is being held from 10th to 12th of January on Gateway to the Future. That's the theme. It will be marking a decade of the Vibrant Gujarat's success. Now, over the last few years, Vibrant Gujarat Summit has evolved into a global platform, is expected to witness participation from 135 countries. Over 2,000 exhibitors will be at the event. This year's summit is expected to attract global leaders, which will include the likes of UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who is going to be arriving later in the day to India. He will be landing in Gandhinagar. A roadshow has been organized, which will start today after Prime Minister receives the UAE President at the airport in Ahmedabad city. Now, Prime Minister will also be holding bilateral meetings with the world leaders. He will be speaking to global CEOs of corporations from all across the world. It is going to be as vibrant as it gets in the state of Gujarat. Joining me right now is Kartik Malhotra, Kartikeya Sharma. Gentlemen, thanks very much for taking time out. Kartikeya, I want to begin by asking you, this is a day of not just economic significance, but also global significance. We have the UAE President coming to India. This is going to be a mega roadshow today, later in the day, 3-kilometer long. What is the significance for the benefit of our viewers? Why is it important?
Okay, let me give a primer of my show to you. You see, for me, this is where it all began. When the controversy broke out, when Vajpayee was talking about Rajdhan, you know, Modi organized his brand around Vibrant Gujarat. When there were a lot of people who were not on call for the Prime Minister at that time when he was the Chief Minister, Modi and his friends, his close associates, advisors came up with the idea of Brand Gujarat, Vibrant Gujarat. And it sowed the seed of something which we call as Gujarat model. Kejriwal is trying his best to say there is something called Delhi model of governance. So the Vibrant Gujarat campaign created a sort of a larger ground for Gujarat model of governance, Gujarat model and brand Modi. So when we talk about Gujarat Summit, it's not only economy. I think it's also about how Modi was gradually, over a period of time, was being seen by people outside Gujarat. Maybe there he was not being taken that seriously, but then very slowly he had started to build his brand, someone who's bigger than the state, someone who understands economy, someone who understands the global finance, someone who is okay with the farmer and someone who is also pretty cool and okay with an entrepreneur and someone who's pretty cool with a traditional mortar and brick businessman. So this is one part of it. The second part of it is the visit of Mohammed bin Zayed. Now, Mohammed bin Zayed is godfather of Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And for him to come to Gujarat and do a road show also tells us the sort of breakthrough which Modi enjoys in the West Asian politics, which is divided on the Shia and Sunni line. And third and foremost, I think this pillar of this Vibrant Gujarat is also reinforcing Modi's electoral campaign. You know, Lakshadweep, everything. There is no BJP. There is no RSS. Even at the Pran Pratishthan, Parliament, who do you see? It's Prime Minister Modi. Detractors can say anything. But whose brand do you see being solidified? It's PM. It's almost like Nehru. If you look at the photographs of 50s in terms of inauguration, governance, anything important, IIT, IIMs, who do you recall? Nehru. You will not recall any other Congress leader. So, you know, this brand Modi and Vibrant Gujarat, Gujarat model of governance, they're all interconnected.
Absolutely. I mean, come to think of it, brand Modi, I think, emerged from the Vibrant Gujarat Summit. Those were the times we started hearing of a Gujarat Summit, a need for a state to have its own platform to attract global leaders. Since then, in the last 2 decades, $55 billion in FDI has come in solely in the state of Gujarat. The economic significance of this event is also going to be far huge and higher than brand Modi.
So, Shweta, I believe, you know, Gujarat as a state has always been entrepreneurial, and I think that is something that has existed well before Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the Chief Minister in his first term as Chief Minister of Gujarat. So, it has been an entrepreneurial state. it has been attracting investments. In any case, obviously, you know, events like these, summits like these, further augment the investment scenario and the entire business ecosystem in the state, which is likely to continue to flourish, right? But I think what is something that I would really want to look out for in this particular edition of Vibrant Gujarat, I think there are three broad sectors that the summit should focus on and would focus on. First and foremost is India's semiconductor requirements, right? I think the semiconductor industry, and we've seen Micron breaking ground already in Gujarat last year. Semiconductors is directly linked again to Prime Minister Modi's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And if you're really wanting ourselves to become self-reliant when it comes to electronics manufacturing, India cannot craft its own entrepreneurial ecosystem in electronics without that impetus on semiconductors. Number two, where again India's self-reliance, BJP's and Prime Minister Modi's push towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, now culminating or sort of, you know, one bridge by way of Vibrant Gujarat coming through, is going to be in the defense sector. So investments in defense sector, MOUs being signed, inking deals with global engine makers and parts equipment manufacturers of aircraft engines and ship engines, etc., back with Indian counterparts here in India. That is going to be the second theme I would really look forward to. The third theme for me is really going to be automobiles, and within automobiles, very, very specifically electric vehicles. Now, whether or not Elon Musk is going to pay Vibrant Gujarat a visit is something which is still in the realm of speculation. It will be great if actually we are able to see not the excitement of Elon Musk coming down in person, I think that is secondary, but some sort of a headway into Tesla's entry into India on the terms and conditions set by India is something I would look forward to. And if not Tesla, then what are India's electric mobility plans and how can Vibrant Gujarat further augment that? Before I hand it over back to you, I think what will and what should make Vibrant Gujarat stand apart from summits that are held in Uttar Pradesh or Tamil Nadu or Telangana or West Bengal or Jharkhand or Bihar or Uttarakhand would be that the gap between MOUs signed and actual ground being broken on those factories should be much narrower in the state of Gujarat, because it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state. It is a state that he has pretty much built, and even after he became Prime Minister, it is a state which has seen, let's say, you know, the first ever diamond bourse of India very recently, right? It is a state which boasts of many such initiatives, including the gift city, which has become a great alternative to stock exchanges across the world. And in fact, what was referred to as the SGX Nifty is now referred to as the Gift Nifty. So, you know, these are in any case great entrepreneurial initiatives taken by the state, which should only get bolstered further from here.
Absolutely. Gujarat will be the focus, Kartikeya, because, you know, if you read that tweet that was pushed out by Prime Minister, he said, the state is close to my heart, and there are no two reasons for that, but my focus will be on Gujarat for the next 2 days at least.
When did it start? It started post-Godhra in 2003. You know, even within the party, even in the political system, Modi was untouchable. And Modi was reinventing himself. What had Modi done before that? He had organized Rath Yatra for Advani. Advani was a big figure. Then he was in charge of Himachal Pradesh. For some time he was in Haryana, then traveling abroad. And then he was the organizing general secretary. Once he took over as the chief minister, what is the first thing he did? He said, I am an industry-friendly chief minister. Unlike Mulayam Singh Yadav, you know, he took the example of other states, very rightly so. Most of the time, the chief ministers from other states have focused on these big meetings as a networking platform. The Vibrant Gujarat was not about that. Vibrant Gujarat was about raising people's aspiration and then fulfilling them through creating jobs, like in case you talked about Tesla, or getting high-end stuff to the state. Second important thing is what Modi did for Gujarat was, which is different from his predecessors. I agree that Gujarat has been an industrial state, and from 7.5, the contribution of Gujarat to India's GDP has increased to 8.3%.
That's right.
Correct?
Which I think the Chief Minister has just said wants to take it up to 10%.
10%.
And that is the plan now.
So, I think what Modi did was to organize both capital and labor. Generally, the joke is the capitalists say that the movement of capital and labor should be free. What we have seen in today's world is that the movement of capital is free, but labor is not free. But I think what he did within the Gujarat was he allowed movement of both labor and capital. A lot of people said that, he took all the decisions by himself, but the fact is he organized it. So it became easy for the industrialists. But coming back to the point which I am trying to make is, it is all where it began. Vibrant Gujarat laid the foundation of Prime Minister's career. Someone who understood governance, demands of industry. If you recall the speeches he was giving in the schools and colleges in Delhi in 2014, was not about corruption. Those speeches were not about politics. They were about governance, they were about connectivity, they were about cold storages, they were about aspiration of a small farmer who could benefit by linkages so that they can get the best price. So Modi was talking all these things at a national stage which he had been saying in Vibrant Gujarat. So Vibrant Gujarat is more than a state. It's more than a state function because it reflects Modi's basic sentiment. And Gujarati politicians themselves have been very pro-business friendly leaders. Mahatma Gandhi, where did he say? Mahatma Gandhi would stay with the Birlas and he would stay with every industry. He was pro-capital. Mahatma Gandhi didn't go to any temple, but he stayed with all the industrialists. So Gujarati bent of mind is different.
Absolutely. Always an industrious state, and Vibrant Gujarat, perhaps the platform from where Modi started, brand Modi started building on that platform, is going to be utilizing that platform once again, just ahead of the 2024 elections. So all in all, I think it squarely goes back to where it started, perhaps is where it's going to culminate in a series of other political opportunities that he will have to showcase the development effort that the government has taken. This will be one of them. He is, of course, going to be talking to numerous CEOs, will be meeting top global leaders from all across the world who have now flown down to Gujarat. Will be meeting the Prime Minister in the next 2 days. Vibrant Gujarat Summit will kickstart tomorrow. In fact, this evening is when events following to the Vibrant Gujarat Summit will kickstart. We'll be bringing you all those updates right here on News9. But with that, it's time for a short, quick break. We'll be back in just a bit.
Get ready for a year of thought-provoking, insightful and exclusive content. Heralding the dance of democracy. Heralding conversations that challenge status quo.
Getting to speak to them, getting to bounce off my ideas with them, it's a great experience for me.
Heralding a wave of artificial intelligence.
There are more than 1 billion people around the world who don't have access to a bank account.
Heralding a new world order.
Biden's comments come as even staunch Democratic voters.
Heralding the biggest news year of our times.
Tens of thousands of such rockets in Gaza.
भारत की G20 प्रेसिडेंसी इंक्लूजन का प्रतीक बन गई है.
Heralding 2024 with News9 Mediaverse. Heralding 2024, where every story is worth your time. News9, ahead of the curve.
It was my 14th birthday.
On birthday, daughter waits
home missing father.
He was carrying a cake for his daughter.
49-year-old Birmingham-based
Indian diplomat vanishes.
He was grabbed and bundled into a car by 4 assailants.
KLA claims responsibility. Demands Kashmiri separatists.
Makbul Bhatt's release.
Goli maro. Or bang.
And within 3 days, they shot him dead.
Abducted diplomat.
Found murdered in Leicestershire.
I said, who ordered to kill him? To me, he said, yes, I ordered it.
And he never came home.
Stop searching. Start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Ram's Ayodhya rebuilt. Ram Lala's Pran Pratishtha. Countdown to January 22nd. Dateline Ayodhya. Catch the mega coverage only on News9 Live.
Welcome back. K-shaped recovery, a word made famous and popular post-pandemic to indicate stacked inequity on one side and stacked privilege on the other, is flawed, incomplete and ill-concocted as per an analysis, a report put out by State Bank of India in its research. The report, titled Debunking K-shaped Recovery, says that trends emanating from income, savings, consumption, expenditure and policy measures question the efficacy of using age-old measures like two-wheeler sales and fragmented land holdings to support the narrative that India is not doing too well economically. In fact, the income inequality, which sees a rise in K-shaped recovery, has declined between financial year 2014 to financial year 2022. This as per the SBI research data. The report, authored by Soumyakanti Ghosh, analyzes trends emanating from, as I mentioned, income, savings and expenditure, question the narrative on inequality. How effective are these arguments and what does the data suggest? Let's talk about that. Joining us is Bidisha Ganguly, Chief Economist, CII. Kartik continues to be with me. Bidisha, thank you very much for taking time out. For the benefit of our viewers, let's first understand what is K-shaped recovery in an economy, because the word was widely used to indicate that there was a sudden spurt in economic movement and hence the K-shape, but it isn't what we thought of it to be, while SBI right now coming out to suggest that the inequality that a K-shaped recovery suggests may not be the case. Do you agree with that?
I don't entirely agree with that, but let me just start with what you asked. What is a K-shaped recovery? Essentially, economists have used different letters of the alphabet to indicate the shape of a recovery. And a K-shaped recovery essentially says that certain the upper income, the trajectory of recovery of the upper income classes or upper income households is sharper than that of the lower income households. And I think that was clearly the case when we started coming out of the pandemic. It was the higher income households which started spending because they had really saved during the pandemic. They could not spend. So when we came out of the pandemic, the upper income households started spending quite rapidly. It first was manifested in services and then also in manufacturing. And the lower income households initially could not spend as much because they had suffered income losses during the pandemic. But they have also now caught up and started spending. This is the logic of a K-shaped recovery, and I think that is what has been apparent in India and in many other countries. So, it's not something that is a long-term phenomenon. It's a short-term thing which happened over a period of time where we saw that, luxury cars were selling more, luxury houses were selling more, while the affordable housing or say the first-time car buyer were more hesitant to come into the market.
But Bidisha, I think 2 years since the pandemic has pretty much been history, so to speak. I mean, it keeps erupting in one form or the other, but largely the economic ills of the pandemic have been behind us for almost 2 years now, but the trends that you are mentioning continue to make headlines even today. There are more number of SUVs being sold, there are more number of luxury houses being sold, there are fewer number of entry-level sub 50 lakh houses being sold, there are fewer numbers of small cars being sold. So what it basically tells you is that perhaps the definition of K-shaped economy or K-shaped recovery that you mentioned happened to be true in 2021 and happens to be true even today. How is it any different, and why is it that now we, 2 years on, looking at debunking this data and this sort of, K-shaped, V-shaped, whatever shaped economy?
So I am not debunking the data. I mean, the report that you are quoting has probably debunked the data, and I'm not sure what is the basis of debunking it. What I'm saying is that trends are slowly changing. So, for example, you see two-wheelers doing much better in the last year or so than it did earlier, and FMCG. Coming to FMCG, which had rural sales of FMCG products had been slowing down.
Yeah.
In the last quarter, we have seen volumes pick up. So inflation has also had an impact on these things. Higher inflation typically affects the lower income households. So pandemic was one factor, but then coming out of the pandemic, we had fairly high inflation. And that has also affected the budgets and the spending of the lower income households.
So, Bidisha, if the definition of the K-shaped recovery has been so clear all along, why is it that India was actually celebrating its K-shaped recovery? It was, in fact, when it was written about and when economists spoke about it in 2021, 2022, K-shaped recovery was pretty much a celebration. Now, when we are reading this report, it seems like, hey, maybe K-shaped recovery is not the best thing to happen to an economy, and it's not something that we should have been served with.
I think a recovery is a recovery, whatever the shape of it.
Okay.
If companies had been doing well, and that will eventually lead to the spreading of the recovery across a wider number of households. K-shaped is just I think I heard the CEA, for example, say that let's not call it K-shaped, but just that the higher income households have been recovering at a faster rate than the lower income households.
Okay. I want to take some of the data points with you, Bidisha, that have emerged from this report. Perhaps you can shed some light on whether you agree with these data points. Now, one of the data that SBI Research is banking on is the mean weighted average when it comes to incomes earned. Now, it says that 4.6 lakh was the mean weighted average income earned by a family in financial year 2014. It has now come up to about 13 lakh rupees as of financial year 2022. Now, if you adjust it for inflation at about 5%, it should have been around 6.8 lakh, but at 13%, it looks like it's almost double of what it should be. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the mean weighted income average? Do you think that figure goes on to suggest that, in fact, income inequality is a thing of the past?
I'm not sure what is this mean weighted average. The figure I look at is the per capita income.
Okay.
And yes, there's been a good growth in per capita income. So again, in such measures, you are not differentiating between different income classes. So the mean income has definitely increased. The per capita income has increased. If overall GDP growth has been strong, population growth has not suddenly expanded. So clearly per capita income will be growing.
So if you look at the graph on the screen right now, Bidisha, the orange bars actually indicate the actual rise in income reported by Government of India, and the white bars are the weighted mean proposed by SBI. Now, if you look at the orange bars from 4.2, 4.6 odd to about 7 lakh per annum is the average 5%, which is in line with how inflation has been over the 7-8 year period that has been considered. Now, these weighted means are what are actually seeming a little counterintuitive and confusing, because I don't know what are the weights that have been assigned to show this income rise from about 3.7 onwards to about 11.6 or something, if I can read the data correctly. So what is this weight adjustment? Because if actual incomes have gone up in line with inflation at about 5%, it's pretty much a regular 7-8 year window. We aren't really looking at something which breaches that basic rise in income.
You need to ask the author of the report. I have no idea.
All right.
Okay. And another interesting, in fact, number that the author of the report has also hinted at is the proportion to which richest people are contributing. In fact, top 2.5% taxpayers are making a contribution to the point of 2.28% of the total income earned, as opposed to 2.81% in financial year 2014. And there is a reduction in their share of total income earned, going on to indicate that perhaps the lower strata of the society, or the remainder of the 97.5%, are also now earning more than what they were. Their share of income is also rising. Would that be an appropriate indicator to suggest that there is lesser inequality today?
It's again very complicated for me to follow and comment immediately. But all I can say is that if you are looking at taxable income, as I understand, the large proportion of Indian consumers do not pay taxes. It's, in any case, it is a very small proportion of Indian households that pay taxes, right? So are we looking at just those households, the inequality among the tax-paying households? I would include a much larger number of households in any measure of inequality.
Okay. And Bidisha, before we let you go, I think the question that is going to hang in the air for a very long time after this report and various other reports that keep coming out of, various analysis hinting at perhaps either inequality going up or down, as per your own understanding post-pandemic and the recovery that we've seen, K-shaped or not, is there lesser income inequality today?
So we don't get such high-frequency data on inequality, so it's hard to comment. But some of the graphs that you're showing me are over a long period of time, starting from, I suppose these are fiscal years.
Yeah, so this is, I think the graph on your screen right now is financial year 2011-12.
Yes, okay. So it's a very long period of time, not just post-pandemic. This starts much before the pandemic. And what is this? It's the Gini coefficient.
There's the Gini coefficient, which I think is looking at the variation in income, and that is something which, again, as per the SBI report, has actually reduced, and the coefficient is down to just about 4 or so, 0.4 or so, as opposed to being closer to 0.5 earlier. So the graph indicating that the variation in income in the data set fed into the algorithm has actually shown that there has been a lesser sort of, divide between income variation.
I think this is perfectly acceptable data. Only thing is, I don't understand the Gini coefficient on taxable income.
Right, so I think the data input has been on taxable income, and perhaps it has kept the non-taxable income, or those who are not paying taxes of any kind outside of the ambit, which
that
again
would leave out the vast majority of Indian
which would exclude a large majority of India. Very true.
Absolutely. A very limited, data set, I think plotted over 10 years' time from assessment year 2013 to up till 2023. But the SBI report, of course, suggesting that inequality has come down. Bidisha Ganguly, thank you very much, ma'am, for taking time out. Thank you for speaking to us here at News9.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Kartik, when you look at these numbers and when you look at them in silos from one another, it appears that there is a lot of data sets that SBI research is trying to plot, from a Gini coefficient to, the richest people and their share of income in the total income earned in the country, to finally the mean average, the weighted average, which we don't know what the weight is on higher, which income category. But all in all, going on to suggest that income inequality, in fact, is on a decline. Good news there if you look at these indicators in silos. But, having spoken to Bidisha now, I'm not too sure whether this can be entirely relied upon.
So, Shweta, having been a student of statistics, I think one thing is very obvious, that whatever you generate statistically is not necessarily mathematically accurate. There could be a statistical accuracy which is very different from a mathematical accuracy. And the point being that data will be crunched only on the basis of the input
and the data
provided into the system. I think data is available in hordes. It is being selective about the data you enter as input
into the system.
to really measure the output that you need. So you want to calibrate your output by feeding selective data, and that data could paint a very different picture statistically if if the input given or the expected results are not in line with the input given. So overall, I think I'm sure SBI would have done enough and more research and would have looked at data from multiple standpoints. You and I have not put in the effort of actually collating this data and running it through the Gini coefficients and many other weighted average systems. But the fact is, what those data, what those weights are, what that taxable, non-taxable income is that has been taken into account is not something that we know yet.
Absolutely.
But the data definitely seems selective to paint a certain kind of imagery.
All right, selective data, but pointing to perhaps not a K-shaped recovery that we've been talking about so far, where there is no inequality. In fact, there is more equality of incomes, and all sectors have seen a momentum when it comes to growth. Not one sector or strata developing over the other. As per SBI, of course, those data sets that are coming out from SBI pointing a rosy picture of the post-pandemic recovery. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching.
The circumstances that prevailing today in the subcontinent are very volatile, they're very explosive, they're very dangerous.
Pakistanis, they sent Pakistani armies led by Punjabi generals, whether it was General Tikka Khan or General A.K. Khan Niazi, to oppress Bengalis in Bengal.
I don't think we can shut our eyes to the situation in a neighboring state.
There was this whole exploitation of East Pakistan, people of East Pakistan, or rather Bengalis of East Pakistan, by West Pakistan. There was an economic exploitation, there was a racial discrimination, there was a cultural subjugation. So it continued for 24 years before things came to a head in 1971.
तमाम हिंदुस्तानियों को तो इस बात का अंदाज़ा तक नहीं था कि बांग्लादेश के इतिहास के कुछ अहम पन्ने हिंदुस्तान की स्याही से लिखे जाएंगे.
Unique story about a unique time, and I think we came of age as a country. We became a country that stood for something.
Cinema imitates life, from real to the real. A story that binds India and Bangladesh from 1971 to now, and for generations to come.
पिप्पा किस दिन काम आएगा अगर हमें ब्रिज के ऊपर से जाना पड़े?
हम रहें या ना रहें, हमारी इस वर्दी का गौरव हमेशा रहेगा.
That is the story of Bangladesh's Victory Day and how Bollywood in 2023